This is the continuation of the Renaissance chapter. Previously, we talked about what is the Renaissance, what does the word mean, when was the time frame, and what was the main thing that happened during that time frame. Today, we will talk about the ideas and the art that emerged during the time of Renaissance. The first idea was humanism. Humanism was a way of understanding the world that believed that the individual in a human society were important. If you remember, we already said that before Renaissance, Europe was passing through the Dark Ages. People were killed for religious reasons. People were killed for statutory reasons. There was no fairness. There was Gothic art. There was only interest in religion and no interest in the human and the interests of the man himself. It was only interests in religion and God and sacrifice. So when the time of Renaissance came, the humanism idea changed the way of understanding for people. It focused more on individuals, whether psychologically, physically, or in terms of interests. It believed that a human or an individual is very important to its society. One of the very important humanistic characters that you will learn about later is Johannes Gutenberg. He helped develop the idea of humanism and spread it out by developing the printing press. Before the Renaissance time, people were not allowed to be literate. They were not allowed to read and write. So when he developed the printing press, he helped spread all the ideas of humanism and Renaissance throughout Europe and the world. Three of the most famous Renaissance men that you need to know about are Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael Sanzio. To start with Da Vinci, most of you are familiar with, he was a scientist and an artist. He dissected corpse. Dissection means that you cut out the flesh and study the organs inside. He wrote famous pieces of writings and notebooks. His two most famous paintings were The Last Supper and the Mona Lisa. The Last Supper was special and very famous because of its size. It was very huge and the details were extraordinary for his age. The Mona Lisa had also a trick in it where that if you look at the painting from any angle, you feel that the Mona Lisa is looking back to you. This is why these two paintings are the most famous paintings of Da Vinci. Michelangelo also painted, but he was famous with his sculptures and buildings. He was famous with his details. He made the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, which is a very important feature or very famous feature in Rome. He has two very famous sculptures, David and Moses. Finally, Raphael Sanzio is also a painter. He was more of a writer than a painter or a sculptor, or if you compare him to Da Vinci as an artist. He published the book called The School of Athens. This is Da Vinci, or a painting of Da Vinci. This is the Mona Lisa. This is his painting, The Last Supper. This is another painting called The Vitruvian Man. It described the angles and proportions of a human body, Vitruvian Man, and it was in the movie Da Vinci's Code. This is Da Vinci trying to understand how birds fly. How do they use their wings? Because he wanted to fly. He believed that man would one day fly. And this is him after dissecting many bodies, discovering the uterus and discovering the womb where the baby or the fetus lives in. This is again a detailed picture of the Last Supper, and it's very big with a lot of details. This is Michelangelo. These are his sculptures famous sculptures of David and Moses. And this is another detailed sculpture showing the very detailed muscles, nerves, and structure of the human body. Now, Renaissance art was famous with a new idea: perspective. All Renaissance paintings had a common theme, which is the perspective. What is a perspective? It's a mathematical artistic system used to create illusion of space and distance in a flat surface. This means that when you see a painting, you think that it is three-dimensional, the illusion of space. It's a flat surface, it's a flat painting, but it gives you the idea or sense that you are in a room or in a space. This is a picture of a perspective. This is a drawing on a flat surface or a painting on a flat surface on a paper or on a canvas. But instead you feel as if you're standing on the top floor of the church, watching the ceiling, watching the very far wall in front of you, and seeing the bottom floor of the building, even though it's all drawn on one surface and there are no levels. This is another picture. Another picture that shows perspectives, ladders, ceiling, sky, and it's all drawn on one surface. Another famous Renaissance man was William Shakespeare. He wrote many types of writings. He wrote tragedies, he wrote comedies, and he wrote historical plays. He had his Shakespearean language or his Old English that was used in his writings. He introduced over 1,000 words to the English language. His famous pieces were Hamlet, Macbeth, A Midsummer Night's Dream, and of course Romeo and Juliet. Most of his writings were turned later on into plays and movies. Now, your weekly assignment is you're going to pick one Renaissance portrait apart from the Last Supper and the other painting that were shown in the PowerPoint in the video. You pick a portrait and explain the perspective. Tell me, how is this painting divided into levels? The other task you need to do is, using the internet, you need to compare between the Gothic and Renaissance art in terms of colors and content. You need to tell me what colors were used in Gothic art, what colors were used in Renaissance art. You also need to tell me what's the content of the drawing. What was the Gothic themes all about? What were the drawings and paintings all about? And what was the Renaissance theme and pictures and paintings all about? Again, if you have any questions concerning this lesson, please get it ready until we meet again in our online extra care session.